And welcome to another Jeff and Austin Intergenerational Television Report. Today we're talking about Thrones. We both had a chance to check out up to episode 5 of season 6. Of course, I was waiting for the actual airtime, but I found out that it leaked early, so I could have pirated it earlier, and we could have been doing this review of the pirated version. Anyhow. Thankfully, I was so oblivious I didn't see the twist or the spoilers. So first of all, anyone watching, the twist and the spoilers are coming. So steer clear. But Jeff, why don't we start with you? How are you feeling about episode 5 and the season so far?
Overall, man, I'm really enjoying it, and I think episode 5 was one of the best and strongest episodes yet. I was a bit unsure because I had some problems with season 5. 2 storylines in particular, the Stannis storyline and then Dawn and the Sand Sisters, the Sand Snakes. That was all silly and a bit messy. I didn't really, not a deal breaker, but something I didn't accept. I was a bit incredulous was the whole business with Stannis agreeing to sacrifice Shireen, his daughter. That just ran counter to everything that he was about, which was, despite her disfigurement, he loved her and cherished her. I didn't accept that he'd accepted this Lord of Light religion for 5 minutes and suddenly, the Red Witch, Melisandre says, oh, this will help assure victory. Okay, I'll sacrifice my daughter. Like, I just didn't buy it. And, a lot of that felt anticlimactic. And then the Dawn stuff was just silly, like fucking, who was it, Bronn and Jaime Lannister going to rescue Myrcella, and then what's her name, Ilaria Sand, and the 3 chicks, they're her daughters, or a daughter and a niece, or like, I don't know, it's disappointing, man, because I've read all the books, and the Sand Snakes in the books are really cool characters, but in the series, they're just the Xena Warrior Princess cartoon villains, and so this season 6, obviously, I think the first 1 or 2 episodes, you saw a bit of Dawn and the Sand Snakes, but we haven't seen them in a while now. And now we're really getting down to business, because I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that this is going to be the second last season, and it's starting to feel that way. Things are starting to build up. Everything's poised for battle.
Second last season. I've been. Oh my god! I thought this was the last season. All this time, I've been going on the presumption that this is the last season.
I'm pretty sure there's no more.
Okay. But they're just going to get further ahead of the books and, the writing, which is the secret to the whole thing. That's both good in a sense and bad. Before we get onto that, I hear what you're saying about the Melisandre plot and the Red Woman and the sacrifice plot. It didn't make sense. And it also doesn't make sense since then. She's all of a sudden become, like, doubtful. When Jon Snow, she's like, oh, I don't know, I never saw the vision. Like, she's regretful or something, and it's like, well, how do you, and if you're regretful and you just had a child burned alive, then the regret kind of needs to be a little bit more, like, if she's actually like, oh my god, I'm not I'm not a real prophet, then shouldn't she be a bit more bothered about having, like, burned that child alive? Like, that doesn't seem to be really there. So I get what you're saying. That's kind of like a weird off-balance thing where the sort of the size of the deed isn't reflected in the impact it has on the characters. And also, one thing that was, like, I did like about the episode where that happens is that afterwards Stannis sort of seems to welcome death. He seems to know at the very end when Brienne comes to cut him down, he seems to be like, all right, deserve this. That's the only sort of move towards making it make sense or have the appropriate weight in the storyline. But yeah, the Sand Snakes are like, they're just sort of like being kept on the shelf until the writers need them later to come in and Jaime Lannister or something, or and there's probably going to be Bronn, the girl that showed Bronn her tits and he really liked them. They're probably going to have a thing later on. Um, anyhow, so yeah, so there's that sort of stuff hanging over from season 5. But I've been, I actually thought, yes, and I was like, well, yeah, there's not going to be any time for them. There's not going to be time for White Walkers. There's not going to be time for dragons. So if we've got another season after this, that kind of takes some of the pressure off. But by the same token, it's like they're not going to be finishing on the strongest note. You know what I mean? The ratings have actually been dropping since, I think, season 4 or season 5 or something like that. They haven't
really?
had a yeah. There's a chart. I should have had that chart ready to show you or something like that. They're not. They've actually peaked in terms of popularity. It seems, the show, and they're now ahead of the books, which means that they don't have this, you know, these epic tomes of writing to sort of fall back on. They're now imposing deadlines on a writer who famously takes a long time to compose stuff. I mean, as a fan of the books, are you worried about the effect that then the TV shows are going to have on the novels, because it's going to be the books, and the books are stuck conforming to them?
No, I'm not worried, man, because look, one of the interesting things about the series is the first season was extremely faithful to the source material, almost chapter for chapter, like a chapter was an episode, that kind of thing. But as the series has progressed, obviously it's deviated more and more from the source material. And I think season 5 last year was when it started to veer away from the books. And this year, of course, we're in uncharted territory. And that's exciting as a book reader. When the next book comes out, whenever that is, it was meant to be, I think George R.R. Martin wrote an article towards the end of last year, basically beating himself up, saying that he feels like a piece of shit. He's let everyone down, but he can't handcuff the muse to his desk, so to speak, because the deadline just kept changing for the release of Winds of Winter. I think whenever that comes out, there's still going to be huge interest, because in a way, it's for us readers, it's the best of both worlds. We can appreciate the adaptation and then appreciate George R.R. Martin's vision, and they're going to be similar but different, because one of the things, in many ways, the showrunners have kind of streamlined George R.R. Martin's vision, and I haven't agreed with all of their creative decisions. Like one of the big ones, I think, again, it may have been last year in the book, when Jaime and Cersei are standing over fucking Joffrey's corpse in the sept. In the book, they have consensual sex, whereas in the TV show, the showrunners, for some inexplicable reason, turn that into a rape, and I was infuriated by that. It was unnecessary. It made Jaime out to be something that he was not, because Jaime starts off as this dashing piece of shit who pushes a kid out the window, and then he starts to redeem himself. He's charming. There's that relationship between him and Brienne. He does have good qualities. Like, I think, again, this is going back a few seasons, he risked his life to save Brienne. You think, oh, he's a good guy. Then, suddenly he's a rapist. Like, to me, it just didn't feel right. It was unnecessary deviation. It felt like, I guess, shock value and just being, sensationalist for the sake of it. Ratings, perhaps. I've had quibbles like that, but also they've done good things, the showrunners, like a couple of times now. George R.R. Martin in the books has had 2 characters, and then the showrunners have conflated that into one. And that makes sense, because as good as the books are, and Martin is a terrific writer, it's no wonder in a way that he's got massive writer's block and he's struggling, because he's created this massive tangled web of his own making. Like, it's just, especially the books 4 and 5, A Feast for Crows and A Dance for Dragons, that's when he really branches out, and it's just fucking insane. Like, for example, he explores a lot more in the books the fallout from the Red Wedding, which I think is good, because obviously that's a huge event. Whereas in the TV show, it's referred to occasionally, but there's no real, fallout from it. Everyone just moves on. And yeah, so in the books, there's the Mandalays, whereas we don't really see the Mandalays in the series.
Is that Fallout mostly what happens in the North?
Yeah, exactly. Well, like for example, okay, in the show, Davos he leaves the failed Baratheon siege at Winterfell, goes back to Castle Black, right? Whereas in the books, fucking Davos goes to the Mandalays, I think, to solicit their support with Stannis' army, right? And then it's this really complex, convoluted thing. It was actually really cool. I'll just quickly explain. He goes there, and I think the Lord of the Mandalay House, he has the Boltons, I think, as guests or something, and he makes a big show of shaming Davos and locking him in a dungeon, calling him a traitor to the Warden of the North, that kind of shit, right? And then there's this scene where Mandalay sort of sneaks into Davos's dungeon and said, "Yeah, look, sorry, mate, I'm on your side. You have our support, but I'm just playing this game because the Boltons are here. I just shamed you." So, you know what I mean? It's really quite murky and complex, but obviously there's no time to explore all that in the
So it's an exploration of the Bolton dictatorship in the North and the underground
and the subterfuge, the conflicting loyalties, that kind of thing. And I think they're kind of getting that with this season, season 6, because they're referring to the families and houses of the North, like the Karstarks and the Tullys. You know, these names are starting to pop up again. But that's what I mean, man. There's so much.
I mean, of course, there's seven books and 7 seasons and 7 kingdoms and 7 gods. Of course, there's 7. Somewhere along the line, I've completely constricted and altered my viewing experience of this season by thinking it was the last season. I don't know why. I've really just had like some kind of schizophrenic disassociation where I've read an article about how it's the last season that doesn't exist. Anyhow, so I've been, and so some of that stuff, like the young lords of the North, you see in the Ramsay Bolton in Winterfell, like talking to the Karstarks and to the whoever else, like these new alliances of the new politics of the North. And I'm like, oh, well, that'd be interesting. But this is all dragon time. You're all eating into my time with the dragons here. You're all eating into my White Walker time, right? You're all eating into my Jon Snow getting revenge time. And so I mean, this is, in a sense, it's good news because it gives them all that. But I am still scared because, I mean, like, if R.R. Martin hasn't written the 6th book, then he hasn't written the 7th season, and the showrunners are going to make more of the decisions, and they're not going to be necessarily as awesome as the decisions that they would make if they had the source material they're flesh out from. But yeah, anyhow, episode 5, cutting to the chase, for me, even in that thing, I've been watching season 6 feeling like, oh, come on, you know, like let's get on with it. And I feel like there's a little bit of that, like Jon Snow comes back from the dead, and like that first time when they're showing him, you notice the cinematographic techniques they're using. They're almost like Triumph of the Will style. There's this thing where the camera moves tracking on him so perfectly. It's like he's standing still and his feet are moving the earth underneath him. You know what I mean? There's this sense of immense, oh shit, something really big is happening now, and this guy's back from the dead, and that, you know, and then he's like, I don't know what to do. Now I've got hurt feelings. I'll sit here and be sad at the wall. For like an episode, he's like, oh, I'll leave. I'm going to leave. And he walks out, and then he's still there. And then he's sort of like faffing about having emotions. And it's like, look, you've died and come back to life. The emotions and all that are a little bit, you know, beside the point now. Sansa's had to come and like get him in line. But that's going to be interesting. You see the interplay where it's Jon Snow's army, but Sansa's claim on Winterfell, and what's going to happen with that? How's their loyalty going to hold up. You can't imagine Jon Snow turning on Sansa, but she's now starting to a little bit and withhold information from him about Littlefinger, who she should have killed. And so there's an interesting plot developing there, but I just feel like I don't feel like we're halfway through. We're halfway through a season's worth of actual stuff happening. You know, I feel like there's a lot of characters talking so far in this episode, and not enough sword fights and stuff. But episode 5 really seemed like the rubber seemed to hit the road a bit. You've got some stuff happening on the Iron Islands now. You've got Hodor's death, the sacrifice of Hodor. That was the most satisfying piece of writing so far this season. It pulled the heartstrings. It got the emotions going on. It's a major character who you didn't expect to die and dying. That's what we come to Game of Thrones for. I think best episode of the season so far.
Yeah.
But this season's gotta be action packed from here on in, or I'm gonna feel like, you know, major, you know, fantasy blue balls.
Well, I'm a bit more positive. Like, I know what you're saying. I'm a bit more positive than you about this season, because I think I mentioned before, I feel like a lot of it is setting up the big battles and the conflicts. In fact, I think there's a huge battle. I haven't seen it myself. There's some still or photo, some sneak peek of this huge battle scene. It might be the Battle of Winterfell. I feel like they're sort of moving the chess pieces around, and it's building up towards that. So in a way, you could maybe see season 6 as the Twin Towers from the Lord of the Rings, the second book, where a lot of it is setting up. And then the third and final book, Return of the King, is just this big orgy of catharsis and violence and battle and release. And season 7 is probably shaping up to be like that. And in fact, I think we'll still get some of that stuff that you're craving, the action, the sword fights, towards the end of this season. So I'm a bit more sanguine than you, because I can feel it coming. And yeah, a couple of points. Like, I think it was the last episode 4. That was notable and interesting for the fact that it was a real girl power kind of episode. You had fucking Sansa Stark telling Jon Snow to man up, get over it. You had Yara telling her brother Theon to man up, get over it. What the fuck's wrong with you, cunt? You had, of course, there was the apotheosis, if that's the word. I sound like such a wanker right now, but it was Daenerys setting all the dude bros on fire, right? And then you also there was another one. So you had 4 instances of chicks like fucking laying down the law to the guys, and that was quite striking. Oh fuck, who was it? Yara, Sansa. Oh, that's right, Marjorie Tyrell, and her brother Loras, who's a broken man. He's been broken by the sparrows. But she's like, you motherfucker, come on, let's, you know. So that was really interesting, given, I think, again, I was reading another article today, the criticisms the showrunners have copped before about its depictions of women, dead prostitutes, turning a non-rape into a rape, that kind of thing. Also, Austin, you were talking about Jon Snow before, and a friend of mine made, I think, an apt point, which is Jon Snow's back from the dead, but he doesn't really seem discernibly different. And the reason I bring that up is, in the books, people who are brought back from the dead with that kind of magic, they do change. Now, have you heard of Lady Stoneheart?
No.
Okay, Lady Stoneheart, big spoiler for non-book readers. Going back to the Red Wedding, right? Fucking Robb Stark and Catelyn Stark murdered. Catelyn Stark got her throat cut, right? In the books, she's brought back from the dead. And this is such a kick-ass part of the books, actually, which I've read that is not going to appear in the show, which fucking sucks. But basically, she comes back from the dead, and she becomes known as Lady Stoneheart, right? And I think she assembles like not an army, but kind of like a small squadron. And they basically roam the countryside, killing Freys and Boltons, just wreaking revenge. And Catelyn Stark, the undead, is different from the original Cat Stark. She's just icy cold, like not the warm mother that she was before. Hence the name, I guess, Lady Stoneheart. She's just a badass, and in the book, she's hell bent on revenge against Jaime Lannister. So I think, yeah, in Martin's world, it's the idea is if someone's brought back from the dead, they're changed in some way. Whereas in the show, we don't really see that with Jon Snow. And I don't know if that's the showrunner's choice.
That's kind of more satisfying in terms of creativity and stuff, you know. I mean, it might be I'm going a bit off the path here, but I think it's you know, we're dealing with literature and art. It's like if you have a dream of someone who's passed away, often the thing that you'll notice is that in your dream, there's something wrong with the person. They don't act right. If you dream about someone you know who's died, and in the dream, they're never the same. They're never just them. There's always something wrong and weird about the situation. Like part of your mind is like, no, this person's gone. So, I mean, you know, in literature, it makes sense that would be replicated. That would be satisfying. And I'd heard that about Jon Snow as well, that he's going to be mixed with this new character. And when he first came back, he just said 2 words. You know what I mean? Like didn't explain himself to anyone, didn't explain anything, just sort of moved and gave orders. And I thought, okay, great. You know, he's going to be the sort of, I don't know, just a master warrior from beyond the grave now, who's here kind of like that with just one purpose. And he's just going to be like ruthlessly efficient leader, know what he's going to do, and really like snap stuff into gear. And we're going to have less scenes of people sitting around deciding what to do. But then that's not come through at all. And that sounds like an awesome plot line that they should totally have had with Lady Stoneheart.
So good. But yeah, I think you mentioned one of them. I think in going back to episode 5, The Door, there were 2 big reveals, massive reveals. One is Hodor's backstory, how he ended up being Hodor, and it kind of reminded me of Christopher Nolan's movies, you know, where he kind of bends reality and logic, and it doesn't really make sense, but you can have fun with it anyway, like Inception and Memento and that.
It's also like X-Men Days of Future Past.
Oh, I haven't seen
time travel, but only inside someone's mind. Well, it's this. Okay. I mean, spoiler alert for X-Men. Spoiler alert for X-Men Days of Future Past. I mean, which shouldn't be a thing anyhow because it was in the comics as well. So blah blah blah. They travel back in time inside Wolverine's mind because the time travel destroys you, but Wolverine can reheal. So they come back inside his mind to an earlier time and affect reality that way. They don't travel. They don't send old Wolverine back to meet himself. Old Wolverine suddenly has new Wolverine's memories. You know, past Wolverine has future Wolverine's memories, right? And so there's an element of that with Hodor where information backwards in time to him, you know?
Yeah.
As one of the other reviews I was saying is like, because now there's time travel in Game of Thrones too, because it wasn't complicated enough. So they needed more stuff. But that's actually, that was really satisfying, and it fits with the mystical setting and, you know, all that. Look, Daenerys finally getting the whole Dothraki army behind her is cool too. And that's from episode 4 or whatever. But like I was really annoyed with her storyline for the first kind of couple of episodes because it's like Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, as far as I was concerned, at the end of season 5, she's with the Khalasar again. He's dead, but probably going to come back from the dead until the end of episode 2. That nothing really changes on either of those plot lines. What's you know what I mean? Like by the end of it, like okay, she's still with. Like eventually, yeah, we got there, and it was done nicely. It was done nicely, and they did create some anxiety that she's not going to, that she's going to end up being, you know, somehow marginalized. But you never take that threat seriously because of the symbolism of the story. You know, her and Jon Snow are going to be there at the end, kind of. But the other thing, so the other thing so they've come through on Jon Snow almost like if he has a big battle next next episode or starts marching or does something, that's that storyline moving again. They've got the Daenerys Targaryen and the dragon story moving again, but like, can she just get back to Mehreen and stop having these long? Like, I love Peter Dinklage. Obviously, he's the sort of runaway star of this season. This whole show has been Dinklage has just been like everyone's loved him, but the episodes of him like trying to hold the slavers and like keep everything balanced in her absence is a little bit tiresome. So I want all that to happen. And the other thing is, what the fuck's up with King's Landing? Like it was an episode or two ago that the Tyrells agreed not to get in the way of the Lannisters when they went into massacre the High Sparrow and stuff. So when are we going to see the bit from the preview where Jaime rides his horse up the stairs and massacres the fuck out of the fundamentalists? Like, we're all ready to cheer for the incest rapist against the fundamentalists, right? Like, that's going to be talking about catharsis, like that. And that to me, it's like how this feels like it should have come to a head already. That one part of the storyline.
Yeah, well, yeah. Obviously, it's building up to that. Yeah, I mean, on all fronts, because fucking Daenerys is going to march back to Meereen with the Dothraki army, and that's going to be interesting because Tyrion has sort of set up this delicate peace, if you like, and I think there were hints. I think it was Varys and Tyrion saying, the masters are quiet now, but we can't trust them. So, something's going to go down. You've got the, I guess, civil war in a way, going back to the Ironborn, like Yara and Theon fucking off with all the ships, right? And then Euron Greyjoy, who's just become, king of the Drowned Islands, the Iron Isles, whatever the fuck that place is. The Boltons and Castle Black. So that'll be interesting. Wildlings and the Night's Watch, right? And then I think, Tully and all that, Blackfish, who you remember Blackfish? That was, I think, Cat Stark's brother, right? He was at the Red Wedding, and then he pissed off to take a piss, and then he just fucked off. Like, I think in the books, he jumped in the river and escaped, right? And so he's suddenly come back, 3 seasons down the track, because Littlefinger mentions to Sansa, oh yeah, by the way, Blackfish is back, and he's reassembled the Tully army and taken over Riverrun again. So that would be cool. And yes, going back to the point I was making before, dude, 2 big reveals in episode 5. One was Hodor's backstory, and the other was the origins of the White Walkers. Like, that was massive. That Bran's vision of the children of the forest taking that human man and putting a dagger in his heart. And they created White Walkers to fight back against the scourge of man. Like, I love that. And in fact, I think this has been, even though Bran fucked up big time, right, by grabbing the tree without the 3-eyed raven's permission, and then he got marked, so I think the Night King knew where he was, and then he fucked up Hodor for good in the present and the past. Even though he did all that, it was kind of his star turn because it was just so fucking cool with the White Walkers just descending on the children of the forest's enclave. Because I've been a huge cheerleader for Bran all the way through. Like, I loved his chapters in the books and his scenes in the show, because they've just been so weird and mystical. The wargs, the warging, the visions. But it's just, I know other people.
I was just saying, it's the most classic fantasy storyline as well. The children and the imp people in the forest and magical animals and a giant who carries him. And you know what I mean?
Awesome.
It's big fantasy, yeah.
But it's just, I know a lot of people. Yeah, sorry, the last bit cut out, but I was just going to say, dude, I know a lot of people have skipped Bran's chapters in the books and not really a fan of his scenes in the show, but I've been a big fan, and it really paid off this episode because a lot of shit went down, and he's obviously we're learning more and more just how powerful he is. Like, he's got the warg powers, he can go back in time, And obviously the Night King wanted to kill him because he is a threat to the White Walkers in some way. So it's really satisfying for me because Bran, of course, pretty much each season. In fact, Bran wasn't even in season 5, if you recall. Like, I'm pretty sure they fucked off that entire storyline for the entire season. Now he's back with a vengeance. And it's really satisfying because, yeah, he wasn't even in season 5. Before that, he's kind of been on the fringes, just on a frolic of his own with Hodor and Meryn, whatever her name is, Mira. And now finally things are starting to move, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, no, the other thing about that plot line, and it comes back to when they first visit, I've actually been watching seasons as well, because I was, again, thinking we were building up to the big finale. So I've been going back through seasons 1 and 2 and stuff. And when they get to the Fist of the First Men, they have this thing about this is where they came and what do you think? And Jon Snow goes, I think they were running from something. And so for the kind of implied world history for me is that, like, this planet is like where humans went when they fucked up Earth too badly, right? Like they were running from something and it didn't work, right? And so we fled. We came, you know, the initial Valyrian steel is actually built with like modern human technology or whatever. And then that society collapses into a feudal, pre-modern state at some stage. And then you've got the Game of Thrones world that we have now. And that's why, you know, the seasons don't make any sense to us or whatever, because it's some weird astrological thing, which I don't expect to be, you know, explained. But like the First Men having landed there, and we see that spot when the First Men came was habitable. It was green, right? And it's been turned into this winter wasteland by the White Walkers, or the Children of the Forest, who are like the original inhabitants of this place that we've invaded. You know, the indigenous alien race. So I think that's like just. I mean, I don't expect that to get fleshed out, but it's nice to. It's good food for the imagination. That kind of world building.
Cool. Reminds me of. I don't think I watched this movie all the way through to the end, but I know it happens. For M. Night Shyamalan's film The Village, I think with William Hurt, and it's like this kind of Amish secluded community, and you know, it feels like it's in the 1800s or something. And I think the big twist is the village is sort of in the midst of modern civilization, because yeah, all the way through the film they refer to modern day humans as those of whom we do not speak, something like that. Then the big twist, the Shyamalan twist at the end, is those of whom we don't speak a cunt's going to Burger King in the drive-through, you know. So yeah, just when you said that alternate theory of us, and then somehow we end up in this fantasy world.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I mean, there's elements of that. A lot of you know, a lot of fantasy worlds have, you know, people came from somewhere or they were scattered to the four winds. And it often implies that it's sort of post our civilization. And that I mean, like that's obviously a big tangent with, you know, Game of Thrones as a self-contained universe and its commentary on. But you know, like you can't get away from the commentary on the you know, climate change or whatever, and we're all ignoring this existential threat, focused on our seas and competitions and blah blah blah. There's that analogy there in Game of Thrones to the world as we know, but you can also imagine us existing in the history of Game of Thrones, if you like, which, you know, I'm always prone to do, run off on a tangent. But look, the thing is though, like, okay, the White Walkers, was it last season we saw them have a major attack on the Wildling stronghold?
Yeah, that was episode 9. Hard Home was probably the best episode of the whole season. Like that was like an action film.
Yeah, it was sick. It was
right.
Yeah.
No, it was episode 8.
It's like,
Hard Home was episode 8.
I just saw season 2, episode 9 is the same. It's one episode, all the battle for the Red Keep with Stannis' fleet attacking and the green and wildfire, and the hound runs away, and blah blah blah. Like you just have one huge epic battle for the whole episode with no cuts to anyone else, and that's sick, right? But the thing we've got, like, what are the White Walkers? I mean, I guess we can answer that. What were the White Walkers waiting for? Maybe they had to fuck up. Maybe they had to fuck with Bran and the Three-Eyed Raven for a little bit before they could march south, and that's what's going on with them. The dragon storyline, however, okay, like, remember Peter Dinklage goes in and lets them off the chains. Did he also let them out of the cave? Are they like flying around everywhere now? Or where are they? What the fuck's up with them? Come on, get it moving. I'm just like, I always sort of feel like there's so much interesting stuff that I want them to get back to that's already going on. And I worry that I mean, I shouldn't worry. So far they've come through, but it's the fear that when the TV show gets ahead of the writer, the novelist, that's when they're going to have unsatisfactions to some of these plot lines. I mean, because the question is, how far ahead are they at this point? How far ahead is this season from the book? Are they seeing? They must be seeing his manuscripts and stuff, what he's trying to write for the sixth book.
Well, look, I could be talking out of my ass, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere the showrunners have consulted with George R. Martin extensively, to the extent where I think he's pretty much given them the basic idea or outline of where this is all heading. And so I'm fairly certain that the showrunners are going to hit the same major plot points as Martin will hit in the books, but I think they'll arrive there via different ways, basically. In fact, going back to The Winds of Winter, which is yet to be released, I think it was last year Martin released a sample chapter. I think it was on Tor.com. And it was a chapter about Arya. And Arya, of course, is stuck in Bravos, and who knows where her fucking story's going. Most of the other characters, you can sort of guess where their storylines are going, but hers is a huge mystery. She's like a wild card.
I was just about to bring that up. I was just about to, I think she's about to quit, man. I think she's about to be like, this martial arts is great and everything, but...
Well, poor Arya, she's been out on her own for so long now, this poor little girl. But yeah, so this sample chapter, right, about Arya, I think Arya is wearing one of her faces from the black and white church, that fucking place, the Temple of the Many-Faced God, House of Black and White, I think it's called. And I think she plays a girl called Mercy, and she's like in the theater. So it's interesting with this episode 5, they have that little play, the history of Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark and all that stuff. So that's where it's sort of joining up, because in this sample chapter, she basically, she's this actress, and then she sees that one of the people on her list, he's like one of the King's Guard or something. He happens to be visiting Bravos, so she, I think, pretends to be a prostitute maybe, and so goes back to his room, and then basically, she's an assassin and fucking stabs cunts. Like, it's pretty cool. So
wait, didn't that already happen? Didn't that already happen in season 5? The plotline you're saying, where she pretends to be like a little child prostitute or something and stabs the guy, and that's where she gets made blind. Is that so? You might be conflating two different parts of the story.
No, all I remember, man, I'm gonna look after, because I read it last year. It was just the fact that she was in the theater. And then in this chapter, right, and then it ends up with an assassination, and it was just interesting. In this episode, she's watching this play, and then goes backstage to see the theater types: Richard E. Grant, Essie Davis, Kevin Eldon. I didn't know who he was, but all these nerds were having orgasms about the fact that Kevin Eldon was there. He played the buffoonish caricature of Ned Stark. So that's kind of where it's syncing up. But like I said, I think they're going to hit the same points, but they'll arrive there via different means. I think because of the medium and out of sheer necessity, the way that the showrunners arrive at those points will be much more streamlined. No doubt that Martin will arrive there much more tangentially and convolutedly, because where the books really start to get bogged down is the last two, books 4 and 5, A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons. And it's no coincidence those 2 books are also the longest. Like each book keeps getting longer than the last. It's like the Harry Potter series.
The world gets more detailed and more and more storylines need to be finished up. It was interesting watching the play, right? Because of course after that was the first shot, first serious cock shot we've had in a while.
Yeah.
And which has been a cause of great commentary. But I think the timing of that, I haven't seen anyone commenting on this, but the timing of that was because they have this play, and the play is obviously deliberately terrible and crass and making fun of everyone and using these really dumb, easy jokes about how they're all, sluts and drunks and whatever else. And then as soon as it's finished, it cuts to full frontal shot of a man playing with his cock and balls. Just in case you think you're any better than the audience we were just depicting. If you think you're here for sophisticated literature, whereas they're the barbarian oafs, drinking ale, you're wrong. You're just as bad as them. Here's a human cock. Have a look at that. All right, there you go. Now you know where you stand. One of my
I forgot about the dot, but yeah, it was quite. It filled up the screen, didn't it? Did you hit the pause button and just ignore
it? Unfortunately, the batteries were out on my remote from too much of that. But no, but it definitely made me smile the way there was a sort of a joke there that included the audience. I thought it was quite clever.
There's always 1 or 2 jokes.
There was never any question that I was going to keep watching Game of Thrones, right? But I'm not going to feel for a while. I kept watching The Walking Dead after I realized they're never going to kill another major character. Yeah. Right? After I realized Rick and his son and Glenn and Maggie, they're never going to kill them because they're too much. They make too much money. Right? They're all going to be fine. I kept watching for a while out of a sense of loyalty, and I was scared that watching Game of Thrones was going to turn into that, where I would be watching the show that used to be awesome. But episode 5 has assuaged my fears to a large extent. I see they've been doing a lot of build-up work now, but that build-up work is done, and we could have a major battle every episode for the rest of the season, basically.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're feeling positive because I did see on Facebook you posted a couple of comments and statuses saying you weren't really feeling this season. But
just too slow. Yeah. Slow. I was just But now we've got with the Battle of the Bastards at Winterfell is coming, probably. Yeah. Right?
Battle of the Bastards,
Then you've got Daenerys going to kill some slavers in Slavers Bay. Which, by the way, you were saying, this delicate piece. It's going to look like her, Tyrion Lannister, were just fucking planning this the whole time. She was always going to get her army, and his job was to maintain the peace and sucker them in to a false sense of security until she got back. And I think that it'll be a thing where, let's pretend we planned that because it looks like we're an awesome, deadly team. And so that'll make us look more impressive. You've got some High Sparrow getting killed by Jaime Lannister. That's due to come. What else is there? The Civil War battle, right? So that's 4 battles and something in the north with the White Walkers. So that's 5 battles for the 5 remaining episodes. And if they don't come out, demand my money back that I didn't pay. So.
Well, also, Ian McShane's from Deadwood's going to make an appearance shortly. And I think he said in an interview that, he brings someone back to life. And so the rumors are going around that the person he brings back to life is the Hound, Sandor Clegane. And because, a friend of mine mentioned that Cersei's trial is coming up. And he thinks that's going to lead to what he calls the Clegane Bowl, which is a battle between Gregor Clegane, who's all fucked up and he's behind that armor. So it'd be interesting to see his face behind the armor. But it could be a battle between Gregor Clegane, the mutant freak who's being brought back to life but fucked up in some way by Qyburn, right? The fucked up, dodgy maester, and his brother, the Hound back from the dead, brought back to life by Al Swearingen. And of course, if you recall, Sandor hates his brother. So if those two fight, that'll be huge as well.
Yeah, well, that's got it. Now you mention it, that's been coming forever. I mean, that plotline's been around for ages. Those guys have got to fight. I'm never sure that the Hound was actually dead. I was like, maybe when Arya Stark left him to die, he just, like lay there for a while, then crawled off somewhere, and like I was thinking we were gonna come back and find that he's, like tending to a flock of sheep somewhere, having a quiet shepherd's life, or something bizarre like that. That he had
retired.
Yeah, exactly. Or everyone thinks he's dead, so he decides to keep it that way and have a quiet life or whatever. But yeah, he's going to come back and fight his brother, and that makes a lot of sense. And Ian McShane is one of the least appreciated actors out there in terms of not getting as many roles as he should. Right, like he should have been Game of Thrones from day one. There's a bunch of roles he could have been amazing in, but he's up. So here he's coming with great news. That's something to look forward to.
Well, yeah. When I first read that Ian McShane had been cast, I thought, oh, he's going to be Euron Greyjoy, Balon's brother who comes back from sailing the world, and he's this real badass. I maintain still, of course, Ian McShane would have made an amazing Euron Greyjoy, but I don't know the actor, but whoever's playing him is fucking great, actually. Because in the books I'm pretty sure his nickname is Euron Crow's Eye, and I'm pretty sure he wears an eye patch, so he's like a stereotypical pirate, but he's kind of like a Ramsay Bolton. He's just an absolute psychopath and sadistic. He's into humiliation. There's a scene where him and his men take over like a banquet hall and do this role reversal where all the lords and ladies and their kids have to be the servants and the wenches, and then all the peasant girls and bar staff, they get to sit on the throne and sit at the adults' table and be treated like royalty, and that he's humiliating the lord's daughters and making them sluts, and so he's a really juicy and creepy character. And
that would also be a fascinating thing to do apart. Like one of the things as well. Again, watching season 2, there's this scene where the mob almost kills Joffrey. The mob almost sort of swallows up the royal family during them walking, because they're starving because of the war effort, blah, blah, blah. But and it's like, it would be nice for that plot line for the people outside, apart from, they're doing it through the movement of the High Sparrow. That's meant to be a movement kind of the poor, kind of like sort of like an Islamist movement or something, which is, or a theocratic movement, like, lots of historical examples you could use, where the poor people could actually suddenly affect the plot. Like if the people of King's Landing or the people of some other major city were to just rise up and kill a major family and actually have an effect on the plot and history, is something I would like, just from pure from a political point of view. Like even in feudal times, the body politic, the general masses are a factor. They've been talked about as a factor, but you've never seen them actually just sort of lay hands on a lord at any stage apart from that. And it's like, well, that was a sign of how unpopular Joffrey is. I mean, but one of the great things about this season, we should start thinking about wrapping it up because we're probably juiced every last bit of insight we can out of it. One of the great things is King Tommen. And it's like, oh, so you didn't like King Joffrey. You didn't like the guy who was high progressive and a bastard. Okay, let's give you this guy who's a real nice guy. Let's show you what happens when you have a king who's like a real big softie and doesn't want to hurt anybody, and loves his wife and wants her to be all right and blah, blah, blah. Then he's completely ineffectual. And you're like, fucking get out of the way. Let Cersei run shit, you fucking idiot. You're totally rooting for Cersei by this stage. Which is also the sign of a great writer, that he's able to get you to root for the characters you hated. Not very long ago.
Oh no, I feel bad. because he is a sweet
Which
little young guy, and you know he's probably going to die because there was that prophecy that all of Cersei's kids are going to die, and I didn't see Marcella's death coming, to be honest. That kind of shocked me. It didn't happen in the books. Maybe that's where it was heading. But yeah, given that prophecy, Tommen's probably going to go, say, towards the end of the season. There's been some kind of creepy, unsettling scenes going back a few episodes between Cersei and Tommen, because I never really trust Cersei, and I think, look, her only redeeming feature is that she loves her kids, but the scenes were kind of weird where, not that you sense that Cersei was going to hurt Tommen, but just that, you know, being the scheming, manipulative bitch that she is, like, you wouldn't put it past her to maybe, yeah, not hurt him, but maybe shuffle him off to the side for her own ends.
Or that she's already planning her life after he dies because she's convinced that he is going to die. She's convinced by the prophecy as well.
Yeah, that's the other way.
And now the two of her kids, she might be like, right, I was going to die too, and what am I going to do then? Yeah. I mean, in terms of the Jamie, in terms of making characters you hated sympathetic, you're absolutely right that they fucked it with Jamie Lannister raping his sister. That was the...
Yeah.
You know, like, because he's like, what's amazing about this show is the character arcs that it takes you on, these huge arcs, you know, from absolute high to absolute low, like really epic journeys that each character goes on. And that seemed to be like a little bit like hitting the reset button with Jamie, back to him being a total bastard, which is something they haven't done much of. Anyhow, I was You go.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to say, in terms of predictions, I mean, I think you've covered some of them, but I think Ramsay definitely has to die this season. Like, he's just become intolerable. I think they've milked his bastardry as much as they can by this point. So I think, honestly, going back to, our mutually hated show, House of Cards, right? If they keep on Ramsay Snow till the 7th season, it's exactly like House of Cards, just milking Frank Underwood, where he has all these faux crises and overcomes them at the last minute through cunning or charm or skullduggery or something. And it's just, after a while, you get over it. It's like, really? Again? So I think he has to die somehow. The question is how and at whose hand. Could be Sansa, could be Jon Snow, Littlefinger. Littlefinger's another wild card. You know, he's so fucking devious and clever. I think he may help Sansa, but you can't trust him, of course.
Why didn't Sansa have Brienne kill him? Just have Brienne kill Littlefinger. I don't understand the choice. Right? Like, she's meant to be, like, of age now, like, ready to make hard decisions and sort of step into her mother's shoes to some extent and defend Winterfell and blah, blah, blah. She should have been like, kill that motherfucker. Kill him. I see no good reason to keep him alive. Am I missing
I
something?
think there's two good reasons, right? One is maybe part of it's a part of her still not trusts him, but kind of likes him because obviously he adored her mother, and he did kind of rescue her to begin with before handing her over to fucking Ramsay Snow. But the other part of it might have been quite politic of her. Like, he could be useful. He's, you don't trust Littlefinger, but he's a good guy to have on your side because he has resources, he has money, he has knowledge, he has power. So that's what I mean. It's hard to know because his allegiance is always shifting. And, we've come back to that awful kid at fucking, Lord Aaron, I think it is. So I don't know what's going to happen with him. He's probably going to die. But I think Littlefinger could be useful. But he's a wild card. We don't know. And that's what's interesting. So I'm glad that Brienne didn't kill him because it's like, oh, cool. I get to see what Littlefinger does next.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of the really interesting characters. The other thing is, it just occurred to me, okay, she's now got him in terms of blackmail because his position now depends on the Knights of the Vale and the Lord of the Vale, right? And he's told them that she was captured by Bolton, not that she was handed over. So she's actually got a bit of leverage on him now as well, which she might be able to use to sort of turn him into her tool. So that makes sense. That makes sense as well. Any other predictions? Let's start getting into predictions before we wrap up.
Yeah, so I think Ramsay's got to die. Fucking. As we've discussed, I have no idea where Arya's storyline is going. That's a mystery. Yara and Theon fucked up with all the.
Back, man. Arya's gonna come back to the Seven Kingdoms, right? Like she's already like the other thing about that theater show was it reminded her of the death of her father and the death of her family and all the revenge she's gonna get. So either she's gonna like graduate and get her black belt soon, or she's gonna give up and say, look, I'm pretty fucking deadly, and also I'm a Stark of Winterfell, and I'm gonna get a bunch of like heavy hitting dudes with blow torches, and we're gonna get medieval on some people's asses. She's gonna come back and be the Marcellus Wallace of the game. She's gonna be vicious once she gets into the game, and I expect that'll happen soon.
Yeah. Now
that's my prediction.
Yeah. Okay. Yara and Theon fucking off with all those ships. The question is, where are they going? What are they going to do? A friend suggested they might go and hook up with Daenerys and Tyrion, maybe. But why would they go to Essos? Ostensibly their main motive was to get the fuck out of there, because obviously Euron threw his brother Balon over a rope bridge. So what's to stop him from killing his niece and nephew? And of course, as soon as the ceremony was over, he was like, "Where's my niece and nephew? I can't wait to murder them." So we understand where they fucked off, but they've taken all the ships with them. So yeah, it's interesting to see where that's going to go. I'm really hanging out for the Battle of Winterfell, man. I think it's going to be interesting how they stay with all these things, because there's going to be a Battle of Winterfell. And as you said, we've had Hardhome with the White Walkers. Presumably the White Walkers aren't too far away from Castle Black. So, in fact, this is a prediction I'll throw out there. Final episode 10, or Season 6, Episode 10, it could end with the White Walkers at Castle Black. So the White Walkers on the absolute perimeter of Westeros. I think that would make it really interesting. And Daenerys, of course, is marching back to Meereen, but sooner or later she's got to come back to Westeros, right? So when she comes back with her army and her dragons, because I think that's what it's going to be. It's going to be her dragon fire against the White Walkers. Like, that's the only way I can see the human being ever seen alive.
Yeah, exactly. It's fire and ice, right? Like and in the middle somewhere is lukewarm water, like the bass player in Spinal Tap. And that's where us mere mortal humans are comfortable. So you're gonna have too hot and too cold fighting each other, and we're gonna that's really where it's gonna go. And I think you probably. Where's she going to be? Where's Daenerys going to be by the end of the season is the question. Is she going to be on the edges of Westeros? Is she going to be taming her dragons? Is she going to spend some time trying to learn how to ride those things, guys? Right? Like, who are the other... Do you think, and I do, Tyrion Lannister is going to be a dragon rider?
Yeah. In fact, I just thought... In fact, it makes sense, going back to Theon and Yara, that they would take all the best ships and go to Daenerys. Because Euron said that he was going to hook up with Daenerys, so it makes sense that Yara would want to get to Daenerys first, and so that makes sense. That would make Daenerys hugely powerful. She's got the ships, she's got the dragon, she's got the Dothraki, she's got the Grey Worms guys, the Unsullied, right? The slaves who are willing to fight. Yeah. So and then Daenerys will be super powerful by the time she does trudge back to Westeros.
She's going to have the tension, though, the tension between the slavers, as in the Dothraki are slave people, they take slaves, right? And the freed slaves is going to be something that she's going to have to deal with, and she's going to have to teach the Dothraki new ways that they don't take slaves or whatever, that they limit their barbarity when they're raiding to some extent, or is she just going to be like, nah, fuck it, everyone can eat my shit? I think she's going to have to, because she's now in... She's got ideological baggage. She's got ideological baggage now, being the breaker of chains. She can't be going around throwing everyone into chains.
Well, also Daenerys' favorite party trick, because she's done this twice now, is setting herself on fire and then showing her tits. So she could maybe do that a third time just to rally the troops, build up morale. Like, ta-da! Here I am.
It's the most important plot twists in Game of Thrones have often revolved around exactly what you just said. Daenerys setting herself on fire and showing her tits and dragons. And
I should try and work that into my act.
I don't think we'll get another. I don't think we'll get another flaming tit moment this season though. They're not going to give us two of them in one season. Maybe sometime season 7.
Yeah, it's like rations. You got to space that out.
Yeah. Well, they're rationing the fucking dragons enough, aren't they? It's like you remember the South Park send-up of George R.R. Martin, how he's going to order pizza for a diabetic kid, but it's never coming. The pizza. It's been very true.
Yeah. Well, of course, Tyrion released the 2 dragons, and then there's the biggest and most psycho dragon of them all, Drogo, I think his name is. He's been on the loose for a long time now, so he has to come back at some point. So yeah, there's a lot of wild cards in this show, and I guess
he's gonna be in old Valyria and fucking what's his face? The guy with, you know what I mean? The guy who's now got the dude. So maybe he's gonna find him in Valyria. Maybe he's gonna go to Valyria looking for a cure, right? And fighting the dude, because we saw dragons there before, and they sort of go back like it's their ancestral homeland or something, right? Yeah. So maybe he'll go there and find them and come back with the 3rd. He would be another likely dragon rider, I would say.
Yeah, that would be awesome, actually. Jorah gets cured, rides back with Drogo. What's up, cunts? I'm back. Back in Black's Plain.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Daenerys man. It's out just for the hell of it. It's such a cool moment. Sorry. Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up there. Good talking.
Thanks for the chat, Austin. All right. Well, we'll do this again after episode 10.
Absolutely.
Cool, man.
And we are